So parenting is hard. Can we all agree with that? Those of you that are parents?
Yeah.
You're not parents. Yeah. Too much sugar this morning. Okay. Parenting's hard. And there's a lot. I mean, my goodness, if you go onto Amazon and you put in parenting books, you're going to get everybody's idea and everybody's opinion, everybody's thoughts as to how you're supposed to do it, what you're supposed to do, what's right, what's wrong. And there's all these things. And so during this little short 2-week series, we've really kind of been focusing on bigger picture. Like the things that go, okay, everybody maybe adapts them differently, everybody maybe does them a little bit differently, but these are the big picture ideas behind parenting and how to do that. So this morning, just a question to kind of ask you to kind of allow your brain to begin to move in the direction of what we're talking about. What are you giving your children today? So what are you giving them today that's preparing them for the future? What are you giving your kids today that's helping them get prepared and ready to be able to handle the future? Now, as parents, in fact, I would say the vast majority, if not all parents, if they were asked the question, okay, do you want your kids to have a good, positive future? Most parents, maybe not every day, but most parents every day would say, yeah, I want my kids to have a great future. And what we do is we tend to try to mold and shape and control the future for our kids. But if you've tried anything, any planning whatsoever, if you've tried a family vacation, you know that it is absolutely impossible to plan the future. It just doesn't work, right? Things happen, things fall apart. The future is never what you anticipated, wanted, or believed that it would be. And so really, what we need to do as parents, instead of focusing so much on their future, we need to focus on them so that whatever their future is, they're ready for it. They're prepared to handle it. They've got the processes down, the things to be able to put into place. When things don't go the way that they anticipate, they're able to go, okay, let me take a deep breath here. Let's reorganize. Let's reprioritize. Let's figure out how we're going to navigate through this. And you're really building into your children something called resiliency so that no matter what happens in the future, they can navigate it appropriately. They can work through it. I remember when our girls were little, in fact, really still today, Tracy and I love to give like gifts to them, right? Like little things. And it didn't matter. I mean, it was the dollar store, although the dollar store is like not the dollar store anymore, right? It's like the $1.85 store or the $5 store. It's, but the dollar store, you just go to the dollar store like, listen, it was great. Tracy came up with this, and I absolutely love this. She'd like take the kids there and go, listen, you can buy anything you want to in the whole store. It was $1, Just let them turn it loose, let them run through the store. I'm sure the dollar store people loved us. But we just loved getting them because, you would give them that little prize, that little gift, and their face would just light up. And as a parent, you're like, yes, I have achieved. I've done what I'm supposed to do. And we love to give our kids these gifts. We would often watch in horror sometimes, and it would happen to us sometimes, and oftentimes we would watch other parents go through this, and if you're a parent, you know this. You're going through the store with your child, and this heavenly beam shines down on this small toy that just so happens to be perfectly eye level with your child. And you see almost in slow motion the child go from this expression to everything in their face lights up, and they run across the aisle and grab said toy, and then they ask you the most dreaded question ever to be asked of a child to a parent in a busy store. Can I have this? And you're like, oh, crap. And then you're like, okay, let me process through this. Should they get it? Can they have it? How much is it? No, you can't have it. And then you're like, but Lord, please let it be a good day. I remember years and years and years ago, our girls they were probably late elementary school, middle school, and there was a kid who just he lost it, literally lost it in the middle of an aisle, threw himself on the ground. and like just is like pitching a fit, and I'm, you know how you're in the store, right? And you don't want to make it look like you're looking. You're like, and like just losing his mind. And the mom's going, oh, honey, get up, get up. Oh, honey, get up. And I'm looking at our girls. I'm like, if you ever do this, let me tell you what's going to happen. I will snatch you up off that floor. We will be in the bathroom faster than you can say Jack. I'm just telling you right now. And I love it because our girls would be like, no, Dad, don't take us to the bathroom. They always do. It's like bathroom. So we have these things. We know that there are certain things that we can give to our kids that are good things, right? And certain things that we give to our kids that are not so good things. And we process through that, and we're like, there are things that we give our kids like our own insight. We give them insight into something. We give them wisdom. Then there are the not so great things like our bad habits. You ever watched your child, especially when they're younger, pick up one of your bad habits? You're like, oh, man, I wish I could blame my spouse, but I know that's me all the way. It's the bad habits, or maybe the anxiety. You rub your anxiety off to them. Or maybe it's another good thing, like it's trust. Like they're very trusting. They're willing to kind of put their faith in things. Or it's a good work ethic, something like that. Or maybe it's the opposite of that. Instead of a good work ethic, they have a lazy mindset. Or they've got a positive attitude. And so we have these things that we innately give to our kids that aren't necessarily physical things, but the things that we give to them nonetheless, either through the nature or the nurture of them being our child and how we raise them and the way that we think through those things. And so today, for the big idea, I just want to give you this little kind of snippet that I hope it can be an overarching thought process for you as a parent every single day as you're working through this. Because here's what we need to remember as parents. We're not working for today. We're working for their future. And it can be really easy when things get overwhelming to really just focus on, I just want them to be quiet for an hour. I just want them to stop. Just stop. And we want that, but here's the thing we have to remember. We have to remember this. We need to worry less about today's happiness and more about tomorrow's readiness. We need to worry less about today's happiness and worry more about tomorrow's readiness. Now, here's why. We want our kids to be happy, right? We want that. I'm not saying that's not important. I'm not saying that's not something that you want. Everyone wants to raise a happy, healthy, well-adjusted child. We totally get that. But the bigger picture is when they're no longer in your home, can they stand on their own 2 feet? Can they navigate the way through life? Because if you've not figured this out yet, if you have your first little child, you're like, oh, this is just the most wonderful thing in the world. Do you realize that your whole job as a parent is to get them ready so that they will walk away from you? Isn't that awful? So you're like, no, we're ready now. But your whole job as a parent is to get them to the point where they can step out on their own and they can do all the things that God has called them to do. They can be the man or the woman that God has called them to be. And that is like the thing that you can do as a parent that no one else can do because you have that time. And here's what's crazy. You may have a high schooler right now and you may be thinking to yourself, well, they don't listen to me. Can I tell you something, a little secret? That they still, to this day, every single year do surveys of who is the most influential. And they do it with high schoolers, 9th, 10th, and 11th, 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. And they ask the question, do you know who is still the reigning champion and number one by an overwhelming majority? Parents. Still. It's not friends, it's not teachers, it's not coaches, it's not the internet, it's not some Twitch influencer. It is literally still parents. It may not feel like it. Can we be honest? It doesn't feel like it sometimes. But the truth is that you ultimately have the greatest influence on your children. So we need to really remember that parenting is successful not if our kids are happy today, but if they're prepared for tomorrow. So here's what I want to do. I want to share with you 3 gifts that you can give your kids that might break them, and 3 gifts that you can give your kids that will bless them. So let's just go through the three gifts really quickly that can break them, because these are things that unfortunately, they focus on the happiness of the child and the immediate response instead of the long-term planning of getting them ready for life as it goes. So gift number one that break, we give them things that they didn't earn. We give them things that they didn't earn. Those of you that have older kids, do you remember when your kids were little and you played Candyland with them and you always let them win? If you keep doing that, you're going to send this child off and they're just going to assume that they always win. And then life is going to show up. Right off the bat, they don't win. And that's when you get people who are in their 20s and their 30s who are adults who literally open up any news site, right, left, indifferent, it doesn't matter. Do you know what you'll find? You will find adults on the ground like the 2-year-old in the grocery store, pitching a fit because they don't get their way. You see, that's not raising a healthy adult. You give them something that they haven't earned. Instead, give your children the blessing of earning the blessing. Make them work for it a little bit. Don't be like, listen, 3-year-old son, when you can dunk a basketball on a 10-foot goal, no, make it achievable. But what you're doing is you're teaching them that success doesn't just come. You have to work for it. And I know, you're like, work is a 4-letter word. I know, but it's a good 4-letter word. It's a good one, that work is something that God actually gave us. And believe it or not, those who are like, work is because of the curse, it's because of sin. No, the Bible says that God placed Adam in the garden. This is before he sinned. God placed Adam in the garden to work it. So don't just give them stuff that they haven't earned. Make them earn it. Now, again, gifts, cool, yeah, that's fine. Don't be like, listen, you want to earn your Christmas gifts this year? No, that's not. But like literally, we give them stuff that they've not earned. And so they just expect the world is going to hand them everything. So that's a gift that can break them, number one. Number two, a gift that can break is we give them praise when they don't deserve it. We give them praise when they don't deserve it. Now, don't reinterpret this to being a jerk to your kid. This just means we love to praise our children, and it's a positive thing, right? To praise your kids and all those different things. We totally get that. But sometimes we praise our kid when they've not done anything worthy of praise. And they just assume that everyone thinks they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Have you ever met someone that walked through life that way? That they just thought they were the greatest no matter what? They just were the greatest. Why? Because mommy always told me I was the greatest. Right? And you're like, yeah, I love the fact that my 35-year-old son still calls me mommy. Somebody back over here. But think about it. Right? We often praise something that is not praiseworthy. And what do? The things that are praiseworthy, what are you doing? You're actually devaluing them. You're making them not as important, not as essential. This has nothing to do with love. You love your child unconditionally no matter what, because we love our child like God loves us. That's what we're called to do. We love our child unconditionally. But we're talking about when they achieve something, you go, man, that was great. Because if you give everybody praise for everything, that nobody is praiseworthy of anything. Think about that again. If everybody gets praise for everything, then nothing is worthy of praise. So we need to make sure that when we praise our child, we're doing it for something that matters. Number three, the third gift that can break you. We give them freedoms that they can't handle. We give them freedoms that they can't handle. Giving them access to the internet by themselves without any restrictions at 8 years old. I don't know about you, but it is not hard to find stuff on the internet that'll tear your soul out. Have you noticed that? You just type in the wrong thing and stuff shows up. And yet you've given them this freedom to just kind of run free I wouldn't even say it's the wild, wild west. I don't know what I would call it. It's chaos town. To be able to do and get whatever they want to do and get. Or they're given no curfew, they're given no bedtime, they're given no restrictions, they're given no nothing, and they're given freedom to kind of run wild. And you know what's amazing? When things run wild, you know what they tend to be? Wild. And so the key is to be able to structure, believe it or not, and I know this is crazy, your teenager will never tell you this. I promise you that. But Tracy and I, over the years, as the girls have had friends and they've come over to our house or they've stayed with them or different things, we have had probably more than a half a dozen of them, either at that point in time or later on in life as they remained friends. They literally said, I wish my parents would have had some of the limitations and the structure that you guys had, because I wouldn't be in some of the trouble that I am today. Kids need to have their freedoms limited. Do you know why? Because, no offense, they're dumb. Do you know how we know they're dumb? Because they're your kids. Because we were dumb, and we make bad decisions. And part of our job as a parent is to protect them from that. So the three gifts that break: if you give them too much freedom, if you give them things they didn't earn, if you give them praise they don't deserve. So now let's talk about three gifts that bless. And we're just going to go straight to God's word for each and every one of these. Three gifts that bless. Give them a community worth having. Give them a community worth having. I was reading an interesting study a couple weeks ago. And honestly, right until this very moment, it didn't click into my head. So this is all brand new, coming straight. So if I get it wrong, I apologize. But the study was interesting. It was about addiction. You're like, what does it have to do with community? Here, this is what it has to do with community. They did a study for years and years and years and years and years where they would put a mouse in a cage and they would give him one thing of water laced with cocaine and one thing of water that had nothing in it. And, you know, year after year after year, they did this study, and the rat would go over and it would drink the cocaine water until it basically overdosed. And then a scientist about 5 years ago said, you know what, this is maybe this is not really the best thing. Let's create this thing. And he called it the Rat Park. And they did all these different things. And they filled it with these white mice, right? So they had this community, and they put both the waters back in, one that was laced with cocaine and one that was without the cocaine. Do you know that the mice wouldn't even touch the bottle that had cocaine in it? Because they had other friends, they had community, they had things to do. It wasn't necessarily so much about whether or not they had access to it, it was whether or not they had other options that filled the same thought process and brain chemicals. One of the greatest things you can give your kids is a community of people that they can connect with. Because if we can connect with other people, it lowers our desire to find things to fill that void. Listen to this. Proverbs 13:20. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and what? Get in trouble. Now, I know. You're like, well, I can't pick my kids' friends. Okay, first of all, you can. But let's not go there. Let's just make it easier. You may not be able to pick your kids' friends, but you know what you can? You can pick the environment within which they find friends. If you are constantly taking your 8-year-old to a bar with you, guess what kind of friends they're going to make? If you're instead taking them to a place where there are good parents who love their kids, or maybe a place where they're going to learn maybe, I don't know, about God, you're getting a much better crop of friends to choose from. Now, can you find people in church that are horrible, awful, and terrible? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You can. I've been there. I was the pastor's kid, don't forget. So yeah, you can. But you know what? You're creating a much larger pool from which to find someone that can connect with you. And I'm not even talking about church. It's all sorts of things. What are the environments that you are putting your children into? Sometimes the things that look good now, you step back and you go, wait a second. What are they learning in this environment? What are the type of kids that are there? If you are dropping your child off somewhere and you look at all the other kids that are there and you're like, those kids are horrible, you're probably not the only parent saying that. And maybe they're looking at your kid. We need to look at the environments that we're putting our kids in. Listen to this. Guidance, next one. So give your kids a community. Give your kids guidance. Guidance worth following. Now, it's not as popular nowadays, but especially when I was a kid, and maybe probably the generation before, there was this expression that parents would throw out, do as I say, not as I. So you know it. And parents would use it as an excuse. Well, I'm an adult. I can do it. So do as I say, not as I do. Okay, terrible, first of all. Terrible. Guidance is both taught and caught. They see it in us. Listen to this in the book of Psalm, verse 32. The writer is talking to his children, and I want you to hear how he talks about guidance. He says, first of all, I will instruct and teach you about what? How you should live. Are you giving them specifics? What? Or are you talking about the how, the why? Why do we do this? Well, this is what we do as a family. Okay, but why? But because this is what we do as a family. Okay, but why? Because this is what we do as a family. Okay, so you don't know the answer. How you're supposed to live. But then I love this. I will advise you as I look you in the eye. Oh, I love that phrase. Doesn't it just kind of put that in your brain like you're getting down on your child's level and you're looking in their eyes and you're talking to them. You're like, hey, do you understand what I'm saying? Because that whole phrasing, I will look you in the eye, is all about, listen, I want to make sure that you get what I'm telling you. And there's that connection there, that love, but also there are times my mom didn't have to say anything. Some of you moms have that. You're like, oh, I have that look. My kids stop everything. And then they're like meerkat. Because you give the look. And there is that connection that's made with that. So I will look you in the eye as I give you instruction. Do not be, maybe you want to update this a little bit for your kids, but do not be an unintelligent horse or mule, which will not obey unless they are controlled by a bridle and a bit. Okay, think about that. Bridle goes in the mouth, and the bit actually pushes on the cheeks of the animal. And the only reason that animal goes in the right direction is because there is both force and pain. So what he's saying is don't just do what's right when force and pain are involved. Instead, do what's right because you know it's the right thing to do, because I taught you that. I showed you how to do it. I looked you in the eye and told you this is how you're supposed to live. And he ends it with this: an evil person suffers much pain, but the Lord's faithfulness overwhelms the one who trusts in him. So give them a community. Give them guidance worth following. Then finally, give them a faith worth imitating. Give them a faith worth imitating. Okay. Every parent, I want you to look right up here. I have been where I'm going to talk about in just a moment. I've heard it enough times talking with moms and dads. When it comes to this area of faith, I think I can safely say we all feel unworthy because we all know we fall short. No one knows our shortcomings and our failures more than we do. And so when we talk about passing our faith on to our children, we can feel very unworthy. And so what we do is we just kind of let it slide. But if we are going to pass on our faith, it starts with us living out our faith. We have to live it out. You may not be perfect. In fact, we know you're not perfect. I know I'm not perfect. We all make mistakes. It's not about the mistakes you make. It's about getting back up. The Bible even says a righteous person may fall 7 times, but he gets back up every time. It's not about the failures. It's about getting back up. And that teaches your children. They see you go through those struggles. They watch you do that, and they go, man, I want faith like mom or dad. And you're like, they would never say that. Yeah, they might. Listen to this. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 1 and 2. The Apostle Paul is talking to this church that he planted in Corinth, and these are his children of the faith. And he says these words. Listen to this. And you should imitate me just as I imitate Christ. So question, can you say that to your children? Can you look at your children and say, listen, I want you to imitate me? And if the answer is no, I don't want my kids to imitate me, then that means that you need to make some changes. And you need to start living your faith in a way that you go, I want my children to pick up that. Not my bad habit. Not my temper while I'm driving. Not my inability to cook. Not my wild hair in the back of my head. I want my children to pick that up. Imitate me as I imitate Christ. And I'm so glad that you always keep me in your thoughts and that you are following the teachings that I passed on to you. Faith is fueled, not forced. Faith is fueled. It's fueled by your example. It's fueled by how you live. Are you giving them the tools necessary by watching you going, man, I want to have that kind of faith when I get older. I want to grow up to be like that. And you're like, no, that's not me, Dave. Listen, again, like we talked about last week, the eternal soul and destiny of your child hangs in the balance. It's not worth going, I hope they get it. Give them a faith worth imitating. Faith, just like our attitude, is both caught and taught. You can teach it, you can do those things, but then they have to see it lived out in you. Now, this does not mean, I want to be really clear about this, this does not mean that you can go, all right, kids, sit down at the kitchen table and Dad's going to tell you all the different books of the Bible. I'm going to put them in not only how they are in the Bible, Genesis to Revelation, but I'm also going to put them in alphabetical order, starting with Amos, and then I'm going to go, bleh. That's not faith. That's simply knowledge. You know what the Bible says? Knowledge makes us feel important. But it's faith that stands the test of fire. And so I challenge you to give these gifts to your children. Because what they see from you, what they see from the community around them, what they learn from your guidance will shape who they are. Who and what you expose your children to will shape who they become. It will make them resilient and ready for life, no matter what their future may look like. Now, that doesn't mean you don't keep working on their future. You keep doing that, right? But you want to make sure that when the future doesn't work out the way that they anticipated, the way that you anticipated, they are ready to land on their own 2 feet and do the things that God would have them to do. Give them the gifts that bless them, even when you're no longer around. That bless them, and then they then in turn teach those same gifts of blessing to your grandchildren. Give them gifts that release them to become who God has called them to be. Let's be parents, but don't just want our kids to be happy, but rather be parents that want our children prepared for whatever tomorrow is going to throw at them. Because being that kind of parent will set your kids up for a great future, no matter how it is. Father God, we thank you so much for the moms and the dads that are here today. And God, I pray, gosh, parenting can be so overwhelming and exhausting and tiring and oftentimes not rewarding, at least not in the short term, and it can be really hard. And so I pray for those exhausted, overwhelmed, ready to throw in the towel, ready to take the shortcut parents that are here today. God, I just pray that you would encourage them. It's not just about today. It's about the long term. It's about preparing them for what might be next. It's about getting them ready for tomorrow, not just the short-term gains of today. Because God, I think I speak for every parent here. We want our kids to be blessed. We want them to be blessed. We want them to experience everything that this world has to be able to offer that comes through you. And we want them to experience that. And so, God, I pray that we would be parents that give gifts that bless. And not parents that give gifts that eventually will break, cause pain and harm and damage, may take years to repair. But God, we would be parents who take a deep breath. You go, you know what? It's not just about today. This isn't some short sprint till it's nighttime. This is about their future. This is about eternity. This is about raising a child who will make a difference for you. Father, I thank you for that. And I pray this in Jesus' precious and holy name. Amen.